Hello YouTube and welcome to our next video. This one is an introduction to Pentalaloon if you're interested in learning air attacks and in particular the Penta attack. Bit of a how-to. We'll try and keep it short and snappy. There's quite a lot to cover though, so forgive me if it runs a little longer than you might like, so maybe grab a cup of coffee. What is Penta? So let's get straight into it with the army composition and then we'll look at the types of bases that it's good for. So on your screen here's the army. You'll want 4 hounds and take 1 in the CC, max if possible. Around 16 to 18 balloons, a baby dragon for dealing with the CC, and maybe some hogs, 1 or 2 hogs to get the CC lure. If you're going to do a lure with balloons instead of hogs, then maybe you bring 5 archers to help lure the CC troops over to a corner or something like that. You want 4 rage spells when you're first starting off. You might use hastes later on, but start with rages. And 2 poisons, 1 in the CC of course. So the basic idea is that the hounds sit on top of the air defences and distract everything that shoots at air whilst the balloons come in and kill all the defences. So the purpose of the hounds is purely to protect your balloons and keep your balloons safe. And that only works on certain base layouts. So one of the keys to Pentalaloon is choosing the right bases. So let's start off by taking a look at this base here, which is a terrible base to try and Pentalaloon. And the reason is all these air defenses are clustered together in the core. And generally when you Pentalaloon, you'll be dropping hounds on 2 of the air defenses. So you distract 2 air defenses at once and then you distract the second 2, so it's kind of in 2 stages. And as you see here, every single one of these air defenses can see all the other air defenses. That's bad because it means when you drop any hound on, it gets shot by all air defenses and your hounds pop quickly. So that's a bad example. Another base that would be kind of tough if you were starting out would be this one, because they're not evenly spread around the base. Maybe wouldn't recommend something like that. But if we go to a different war, so bear with me while we switch. There's a couple of other good examples. So let's come down to 14. So this base here, again, a little bit awkward because the air defences aren't evenly spread. You're looking for bases where the air defences are nice and evenly spread around. So here, for example, they are spread out. This would be a decent base to Penta because the 2 air defences on the right, whilst they overlap with each other, that's okay because you'll be distracting both with your hounds. So it doesn't matter whether both those defences are shooting 1 hound or they're each shooting a separate hound. But the key point is, whilst you're distracting those 2, these 2 air defences aren't doing anything. Okay, so that's not bad. Base like this, again, it's a little bit awkward spread out, and then you've got a couple of air defenses that are down here. It's just they're not evenly spread across the base. There are other air attacks that would be better suited, maybe a Go-Lalane, and we'll talk about that in a separate video for this type of base. And then here we've got an ideal base for Pentalaloon. Everything is nice and evenly spaced. The ones on the left don't reach the air defenses on the right. And it's all a nice symmetric layout. So we're just going to take a look at this base in a bit more detail and do a base breakdown, talk about how you deploy your troops and so forth. And the main thing, the first thing is the only major factor is the location of the air defenses. Once you've got that, whether expos are on ground or air isn't a deal breaker for Laloon. You can Laloon a base with max expos on ground and air without any trouble at all. But you are going to want to think about the CC troops. If this is a cleanup attack and the base has been hit before and you know what's in the CC, you can make a call whether you're going to lure the CC. So if you know, for example, it's let's drill it down to the basics. If there's anything other than a dragon or a baby dragon, you probably don't have to worry about luring the CC. You can deal with the CC on the fly with a poison spell. But a dragon or a baby drag, you probably want to lure and deal with separately, just because they can do quite a bit of damage. And the key thing is they both do splash damage, and that's bad for balloons because balloons tend to clump up. So if there's a loon or if there's a dragon or a baby drag, you want to lure it. If it's a fresh hit, if you're trying this as a first hit, you probably want to try and lure if you can. It's much trickier to deal with a CC on the fly if it's a dragon or a baby drag. So with a base like this where you can't easily drop a hog and get a lure, just because of the placement of the defences, you've got a couple of different options. You can either bring enough hogs to say take out a defense and then run into the middle, and this top archer tower here is a prime candidate for that. If you hog that, the hogs would probably run down and take out the mortar, and when they did that, they'd get in range. But you can also use balloons. 2 balloons dropped on that archer tower would do the same job. Same housing space, and you'll get a hang of whether you want to use hogs, or hogs are generally good if you can just drop a single hog, and because it's an easy lure, or a giant, or you just bring loons. It's either or, your choice. Just a quick note though, if you are using balloons to get the lure, don't worry if you don't get the whole CC, because balloons are in the air. Not all troops can target air, so if there's say Valkyries in the CC, they won't come out in response to a balloon. So you can you'll kind of know what's in the CC. You'll only pull the things you have to worry about. Then you deal with them. The baby drag is good for that. Drop a poison on the dragon or the baby dragon, then drop your own baby dragon, your archer queen, and the next thing you know, the CC troops are dead. So let's take a look at a base breakdown and deployment. And here's our base. Let's talk about hound and balloon deployment. So we won't worry too much about CC lures because we've all done plenty of that. But we might, for the sake of this video, assume that we've come in and we've taken out this archer tower to help get the lure. Whether it's with balloons or hogs, we're not going to worry too much about it. So what we really want to focus on is 2 things. Which side, how do you decide which part of the base to come in from, and how do you deploy your hounds? Well, as we talked about earlier, you want to come in on 2 air defenses at once, so you're going to split this base into 2 halves more or less. So your choices are, you come in and you take out, or you distract these 2 air defenses, or you might distract these 2, so you're basically going to come in on one side of a square. So how do you decide which of those 4 you're going to come in on? Well, what I like to do is come in near the archer queen if you can. So that either means we're going to come in and distract these 2, or we're going to distract these 2. And I choose between those based on which air defenses overlap. And if you recall earlier, these 2 guys overlap each other slightly, but left to right across the top here, between here, there's no overlap. So that means that I would come in onto these 2 air defenses first. Let's talk about hound deployment. The purpose of hounds are twofold. One is to protect your balloons while they're set on the air defenses. Their other job is to soak up all the air traps in the area, and because of that, you don't just want to drop all your hounds in from one point so that they just come in like this, right? Because they're not going to soak up any traps that are over here or over here. So what you want to do when you're dropping your hounds is you want to drop them in like an arc, if you like. So something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll see I've put 3 lava hounds onto the air defenses next to the archer queen. That's deliberate. Always try and do that if you can. And 2 onto the second air defense. The reason why you drop 3 on the archer queen is she does quite a bit of damage on her own, and so the extra hound just helps shield your balloons for a bit longer. And the other thing that happens is when she helps pop, she's going to help this air defense pop the lava hounds faster here. Because there's more hounds here, that means there'll be more pups, and the pups are what's going to kill the archer queen in this attack, because she's buried so close into the core of the base. Pups actually do quite a good job of taking out the queen. You'd be surprised, particularly if you've got a rage spell down. They absolutely obliterate her. Right, so that's your hound deployment. You want to spread them out. By doing that, any traps basically in let's just draw a little arc. Any traps kind of in this area here are going to be soaked up, and probably including once they're on the air defense, this area here. So basically any traps in this half of the base, they will hopefully soak up on their way in, and that's the whole point. Okay. It's useful when you're first learning to do this to practice a couple of times. So go tap, 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 and just do that on a couple of times on the screen when you're scouting. before you go in. It just helps you deploy your hounds faster, because you don't want hounds sat on top of an air defence while you're working out where you're going to put the next one. So that you want to drop your 5 hounds in 3 seconds or less. So once you've got your hounds sat on top of these air defences, you've got 3 here and 2 here. Let's talk about balloons. So balloons you want to deploy in pairs on each defence. So you drop 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. How far around do you go? Well, this archer tower is been taken out by the lure. This archer tower is, if you look at the base in scout mode, this archer tower doesn't reach that air defense, so there's no point in trying to take it out. It's not protected. You certainly don't want to be deploying anything around here, because these air defenses are live. And you wouldn't want to try and take out that cannon, because this air defense can reach it. So that's kind of the base of it. Again, you want to do this pretty quickly, so it's tap tap, tap tap, tap tap, tap tap, and you don't have to worry about fanning out your balloons. You can tap them, 2 on top of each other is fine. Balloons pass like hogs, so they move to the closest defense. So the balloons that you've deployed here will move from this archer tower onto this wizard tower onto this air defense, and again from here it should path onto here, and so on and so forth. So they're going to make a nice, and you'll see they're going to path into the core of the base. That's what you want. If there was a defense here where that elixir pump is, you might want to have dropped also some balloons here and here, and the reason for that is you want to try and avoid your balloons fanning around the edge of the base like this. Okay, you don't want that to happen. You want these balloons that you initially drop to run across the core of the base and take out anything that's in the middle here. Now here you've got expos on ground, but there's probably Teslas in here, and they are killer for balloons. So you want those, you want this initial batch of balloons to run across and take out the core. Okay. So what's going to happen is your balloons are going to come in and take out, basically everything in this blue square here. When these 2 air defences get taken out by the balloons, the hounds will move to the next closest air defence. So the hound here should move across to here, and the hound that's here, or any hounds that are left here, will move across to here. That's what should happen. Sometimes, for goodness only knows what reason, because the spacings are not quite symmetrical, weird stuff happens, and the hounds here will decide they want to go up to here. For that reason, you want to hold on to some of your balloons. So you'll see here we've got 16 balloons in our army comp, but we've only deployed 8 or so of them here. You want to hold on to 8 or so balloons for the back half, for this second half of the base on the left hand side of your screen, and you don't want to deploy them until you see where your hounds are going, because if all of your hounds do congregate on one air defense, you do not want to drop balloons here, because they'll get shredded by the air shooting defenses that are nearby. Okay, so wait and see where your hounds go. So let's assume that we have a nice even split on our hounds. So the loons that you've dropped are going to slowly work their way. They might split like that. They might, who knows? There's Teslas, so it gets hard to predict where they're going to go in the core here. But the point is, you want them staying in the core, and just let them do their own thing. When you're on this half of the base on the left-hand side here, once the hounds are on top of the air defences, or once the air defences lock onto them and start shooting, and once these defences on the outside here lock onto your hounds and start shooting, then it's time to drop your second batch of balloons. On the back side, you don't have to worry so much about ground shooting like cannons, air defences. So again, drop them in pairs, so it's balloon, 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 and I would probably also drop 2 on this at the same time, because you want to take that out. Now if you've got extra balloons, you might just drop a single balloon onto here. If you've still found that you've got, for whatever reason, a few balloons left, hold on to them. balloons do tend to clump up, and chances are there's going to be a little bit of cleanup to do. So having 1 or 2 balloons that you can spread around the base, like on these builders' huts in the corner or near a big storage compartment, can help with the cleanup later on. So don't throw them all in. You can keep 1 or 2 up your sleeve. So that's the deployment. Let's talk about spell placement and timing. As a general rule, you want to drop 1 rage on top of, bang smack on the top of each air defense, and you want to drop, when you want to drop it is just as the balloons get in range. So let's look at the left side of the base. So the hounds have come across, they're sat on top, you've just deployed your balloons. The radius of a rage spell is roughly that. Well, that's not a very good circle, but you'll get the idea. And that, so you don't want to drop the rage whilst the balloons necessarily are on top of the archer tower, but the moment the archer towers go down and they start to move, drop them. And you'll get a feel for how big the rage spell is, but you don't want to deploy your hound and then drop a rage spell before your balloons, and you don't want to drop it the moment you put your balloons in, because balloons are slow and they take a while to get in range. Wait until your balloons are in range of the rage spell. The rage is there to really help the balloons along and help the pups do more damage when the larva hounds split. So on this base I would have dropped a rage spell on top of here and another rage spell on top of here, like that. So in order it would be hounds on the first set of air defenses. Let's clear all that junk off. So just quickly, and then we'll watch a replay. It would be hound, 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 hound. Next up, balloon, 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 balloon. Rage, rage. Wait until the hounds move across like this, and then it would be balloon, 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 balloon. You notice I've targeted the air shooting defenses first. Balloon, balloon, and then maybe balloon, balloon, and at that point, rage, rage, sit back and have a cup of tea. Job done. So that's it. Hopefully that's kind of given you a sense of the approach. Let's check out a replay and see how it works in action. We've got a couple to watch and we'll take it from there. Okay, so here's the base that we've just been scouting. Let's check out the attack in action. So fairly standard army composition, and using 2 balloons here to get the lure. It takes 2 to take out an archer tower. You see the first one's getting pretty low on health here. That chose that archer tower because it's not in range of any other air shooting defenses. They are here, but that was just enough for the balloons to get the dragon out. You notice that only a dragon came out. If there were other troops that could shoot air things, they would have come out as well, because the balloons lasted long enough. We've just dropped an archer down here. So what that tells you is it's probably balloons or something else that doesn't shoot air troops in the CC. Quite a nice way of taking out a dragon here, which is to drop 1 poison and a baby drag, and look at the damage that baby dragon is doing on that dragon. It's doing some good work. Now, you don't always have to, if you don't need to use both poisons to take out the CC, and I probably didn't there, then keep one and drop it on the archer queen. You see here, you don't worry about the CC kill squad once you've done it. It's all about the balloons. So the hounds are in, you see the balloons coming in pairs. You see here that first rage is possibly a little bit early, but the balloons are coming in, 2 on that archer tower here. Once the hounds have moved across, then it's time for the rest of the balloons to come in. Second set of rage spells down. Because those first set of balloons have come across the middle of the base, they've cleaned up all the defenses in the core as they've gone along. Lots of hounds popping. That's a good thing. You don't want your hounds to be alive at the end of a raid. In fact, probably been a little bit too efficient here because there's several hounds still alive. But and you notice we've only dropped the queen at the end here to help with cleanup, really. This is one of the few attacks that you can do where your heroes are less important. On the right type of base, you can Laloon and 3-star a base without using your heroes at all. But your queen makes quite a nice cleanup troop, or you can use her to help kill the CC. It's up to you. You'll notice the baby drake's still alive. One of the nice things, and I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, is if you can kill the CC on the side of the base you're going to come into with your hounds, then dropping your hounds whilst the just after the CC troops have been killed will protect your baby drag as well, and so he'll be a little bit of a champ and do some nice work on cleanup for you whilst the rest of the Laloon attack is going. So that's quite a nice touch. Got one more for you now. Just bear with me while we switch vids. So here we've got another Laloon attack. This is Andrew coming in on a war attack. I think this was a cleanup attack, I can't remember. Andrew, again, single hog because the CC is over to one side. Uses both poison spells and a couple of archers just to distract all the troops, whilst the poison does the bulk of the damage here. Again, because it's a dragon, it's a good thing to do with the CC. So dragon is down. It's time to deploy the hounds, and so Andrew's coming in, a nice spread out on his hounds here. You see he's keeping one hound up his sleeve, the one in the CC, and that's, you know, different styles. Good to see a couple of different approaches. Again, nice timing and placement on the raid spell. You see Andrew's also coming on the side with the Archer Queen. This is a level 13 Archer Queen, and just look at the damage that those pups are doing to her. So the hounds have all clumped up onto one air defense, so that's a good example here of what happens sometimes. Nice use of a raid spell. Andrew's deployed the fifth and final hound onto that one remaining air defense. You see the balloons have clumped up a little bit here. I guess holding on to a couple of balloons may have helped a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Andrew's got enough to get the job done here. In fact, he's still got one of his hounds up, and just now he's literally just dropped his heroes with cleanup. So you see, you know, the base was pretty much done by the time the heroes were dropped, and you see nice split on his balloons. That's, if I'm honest, that's just pot luck really. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes your balloons clump up, but again, if you've managed to hold on to one or two up your sleeve, if everything's going well, that can really help, because just spreading them around the base, balloons are fabulous for cleanup. They do so much damage. So there you go, a couple of examples, a few tips. Hope that gets you started. As you play with it more, you will get more experienced at it and be able to take out more bases. So clash on. Hope it was of some help.